Reports say that the explosion hit the diplomatic district near the German embassy. Witnesses say it smashed windows in nearby buildings too. OK, well, we can talk now to Sreeram Chaulia. He's Professor and Dean of the Jindal School of International Affairs too. Good morning to you. Good to see you again. Sreeram, we're hearing here, it is very early to speculate, but with an explosive explosion this huge, we can assume it was a terror attack, I suppose.
Absolutely, Andrew. There's no question about it. Diplomatic compound in Kabul is VVIP area, and actually it's high security zone with lots of layers of checkpoints and so on. So I think the terrorists, most likely Taliban and Haqqani faction of the Taliban, are making a point here, which is to say that no matter how much you fortify yourselves, we're going to come after you and we can penetrate into your deepest defenses. So it's actually a political statement to say that nobody is safe in your country, and secondly, the state is failing, and the state cannot, secure the citizens or even the foreign diplomats. So I think it's a clear message. I am reminded of the 2008 Kabul attack on the Indian embassy, which killed nearly 60 people, including a defense attaché and a diplomat. So it's not at all surprising. It's targeted at foreigners, and the Taliban has promised that they're going to go after foreigners, especially because they think that these foreigners are the last hurdle for them to achieve total victory and to overthrow the state there. So I think it's a very, very direct and pointed attack, and a brazen one at that.
The German embassy seems to have been targeted here. Any particular reason, do you think, why the German embassy was the focus, or do you think it was just because it was a foreign embassy?
Well, remember, the Germans are very active in the north of Afghanistan, in Mazar-Sharif. That is where their headquarters is, where they have been part of the NATO military operations. And lately, Mazar-Sharif has also been attacked in the last few months. And as we speak, there are many such incidents happening across the country. So the Germans are seen as actually active participants in the war alongside the United States. So I think it's been a thorn in the flesh, the Germany presence. And therefore, I think they want to send a message, if at all it is directed at the German embassy. But remember, these are all like relatively narrow lanes in the area where there are lots of embassies. So I think the overall message is to the entire international community that Taliban, ISI and Haqqani network want to dictate the terms of what is going to happen in the country. And this spring offensive, they are especially aiming at sending out a signal that we want all the outsiders to leave, and therefore then it will be easy for them to take over the state. So I think it's a direct frontal assault on the embassies, Europeans especially, because they have been contributing as smaller players besides the United States. But US military has far more greater protective equipment and machinery than the rest of them, and therefore they may be also trying to look at softer targets. And one of them is, of course, European forces, including German forces. If not forces, then civilians and diplomats for sure.
From what you say there, I mean, you described narrow streets in and around Kabul. Do you think these targets are particularly vulnerable?
Yeah, but as I said before, these are heavily protected areas, and the state, it's a prestige is involved, because the government wants to ensure that there is a large international presence, because that is what has been supporting the state over the last decade, since the overthrow of Taliban in 2001. So the presence of the international community, who are donors, who are providing development aid, who are building up the infrastructure of the country, who are also doing military assistance and training to build up the Afghan security forces. All of them are, obstacles as far as the jihadist forces go, and therefore they are, in the line of fire right now. And this area, I've seen, in fact, India gave a very big Afghan national flag to be hoisted on top of the Wazir Akbar Khan Hill, which is close by. So in a way, the message of the international community is we are standing by with you to ensure that the state doesn't, completely fall apart. And the terrorists want to tear that narrative and to project that the state is not at all competent and therefore incapable. And indeed, these kind of attacks raise questions as to how often the terrorists are able to smuggle high-level explosives through checkpoints so easily. And this is a bit like Iraq situation where almost every week they're able to do this. So really the security forces, the intelligence system, all of these do come into question. And in that sense, the terrorists are winning because they're able to expose the vulnerabilities and the weaknesses of the Afghan state apparatus.
I mean, just talking about the broader context here, who has got the upper hand? We understand that the Taliban can launch attacks like this, but just put things in context for us in Afghanistan.
Overall, the state is still supposed to be in control of at least 60% of the territory, although it's been inch by inch losing some to Taliban. And there is also the new factor of the ISIS, which has been carrying out some brazen attacks, including in Kabul itself. They attacked a military hospital and took dozens of hostages and casualties recently. So it's like a competitive war between these two jihadist outfits to prove how capable they are of bringing down the 9 pins of the state, one by one. So I think they are looking at we are looking at a hot summer this year, and in fact it raises questions about the outside assistance to the Afghan government and the state right now. We must actually reduce our differences. I mean, there have unfortunately cropped up some differences among the major regional players on how to go about tackling this problem. I think we need to close ranks. The terrorist threat is increasing in Afghanistan, not decreasing. And therefore, before we even go for negotiations or any kind of settlement, we need to close ranks and to somehow reverse the momentum that Taliban and allied factions or even ISIS are acquiring in the country.
OK, Sreeram, look, we appreciate your insight this morning. We have to leave it there. That was Sreeram Chaulia, Professor and Dean at the Jindal School of International Affairs. Thank you.